big in England and all that kind of stuff. And then these guys, Dave and Doug, come out and said that they're the ones hoaxing this kind of thing. But what the controversy actually did was just bring more and more people's attention to the phenomena itself. And so I think Rand Mullins actually did the Bigfoot community a favor in that time frame by bringing more attention to the whole idea that the Native Americans in that area, the Gifford-Pinchot National Forest, already knew about these cryptid, big people living in the woods. So who knows?
I absolutely agree. Kind of like what the hoaxers do, be it like, Bigfoot, UFO, or ghosts. They're kind of writing like a elaborate performance art fan fiction, dedicated to this real phenomenon. So it definitely adds to the culture.
Well put. Yeah, we're all part of the story somehow.
Yep.
Well, thank you again, Vince, for this great update, Pacific North Weird news of the strange and unusual that we've got going on down here. And I tell you, can't wait to see this LUFO video that you've got going. And I'm sure the folks tonight are in for quite a treat to have the premiere of the video tonight. What time are you going to premiere that tonight?
11:15 p.m.
Oh, the witching hour, huh? That's wonderful.
Yeah. And then right after that, I have word that someone in an elaborate Luffy costume will run out and scare the crowd. It'll be pretty cool.
Oh, wonderful. I can't imagine what that's going to look like. You better get some video of that for sure.
Oh, absolutely.
All right, Vincent Zunza from Pacific North Weird. Thank you, buddy, for joining us.
Always a pleasure, Michael. Thank you.
Yep. Talk to you later.
Good night. Bye.
Oh, my goodness. Wow, we're just getting all sorts of interesting reports here tonight from flying saucers and lights in the night sky and big black balls in the daytime sky. And now this environmental hazardous waste kind of cryptid called LUFO from Pacific North Weird. Interesting stuff. We've got to get on to the main part of the show now, and I am just really excited to talk with our guest, Robin-Murry, who is going to tell us a little bit about her story on how she has been writing and publishing mystery and paranormal novels and different kinds of books. So, Robin, do you happen to be on the line right now?
I am on the line. How are you doing?
Oh, wonderful. Nice to talk with you tonight. And have you had a chance, by the way, to listen into any of the other previous reports that you've heard? I
did. Quite fascinating.
Yeah. Lots of interesting stuff going on here at Night Dreams Talk Radio. So I apologize for having you wait so long before we started, but we usually try to get people's attention with some of these strange and unusual reports right off the top of the show. But
sure.
Thank you for joining me now in interviewing you on what the heck you are doing with your life in the paranormal field itself. Tell us, first of all, a little bit about yourself, what you'd like to share.
Well, I got into writing later in life. I didn't start out at a young age, deciding to be a writer. It kind of found me, as I tell people. And that started about 2006. And I just sort of sat down and started writing a romance story and put it out on Lulu.com. And I think I sold 5 books total. And most of them were my family, of course. And I went out and did some educating on writing and learning about how to really put a story together. And during some college course that I took, I got into wanting to write about paranormal. They said, write about what you love to read, what interests you. And I've always been fascinated with paranormal. So Solving Secret is kind of where that came from, all that interest with my psychics, interest. Of course, murder, that's always part of it. And, ghost investigating team, it's kind of got the plethora of subplots involved in it, and just sort of became very natural for me to put that together. I loved reading about it. I loved researching about it. And it was very easy for me to put pen to paper and create my fantasy world.
Now, let's make sure that we don't just jump over that title because you just mentioned it, and I want to make sure people can look for this. It's called, again, Sovereign... Say it again.
It's Sullivan's Secret.
Sullivan's. How do you... It's like
yes.
Sullivan?
Yes. It takes place on Sullivan's Island, South Carolina.
How do you spell that, Sullivan's?
It's Sullivan's.
Okay, Sullivan's Island. Got it. Interesting. And tell us a little bit about the plot to that story. Sounds very interesting.
Yes. Well, it starts off with my protagonist, Marie Bartek. She basically had psychic abilities as a young girl, and she kind of squelched it, mainly because of partly fear and, people making fun of her. And after about 18 years, as she's a veterinarian on Sullivan's Island, it starts to come back to her. So she decides to confide in her best friend, and between the two of them, they create the Sullivan's Island Paranormal Society. And the SIPS team is a group of folks, individuals that are, some are quirky, each of them has their own talent, and they bring that all together, and they go on ghost investigations. They help other folks that are dealing with paranormal issues. But, of course, along with that, you've got a murder taking place on the island. It's a serial killer. And Marie's abilities are really heightened, and they're starting to come to fruition, and she's starting to understand and learn about her abilities. And between her abilities and able to talk to the dead, they kind of all work together to solve this mystery.
Oh, that is fascinating. So let me ask you this. It sounds like there is some kind of information or a witness that she's able to contact from the other side that helps her solve the mystery. Is that kind of how it goes?
Yep, pretty much it. She's able to talk with the dead. That kind of helps her communicate with being able to narrow down who the killer is. And there's a lot of twists in the plot, and, naturally not divulging who the killer is, but it ends up being quite a twist at the end of the story.
Oh, I love it. Yeah. And matter of fact, your protagonist there, you mentioned is a veterinarian. Is that correct? Yes,
she's a veterinarian on the island, and you've got Gail Winters, who is her best friend. She's kind of the opposite of Marie. She's kind of sassy and brassy and, a little more blunt than Marie is, but the two of them are extremely close. And you always have a little touch of romance, in the story. And some of the other characters, Naira is her mentor. She's also a psychic. She's kind of helps Marie really channel her ability. It helps her to grow into it and to not fear it, basically. And you've got Harry Connor. He's kind of the demonologist of the group. He's the geeky, straight-laced kind of a fella that doesn't have a whole lot of humor, but he's good at what he does. And the other two folks, Jim and Nene, they're married. They're a married couple. They're kind of complete opposites, pretty much arguing all the time. But like I said, when the group comes together, they're able to really pull their sources together and do a great job on their ghost investigations.
Oh, man, I'll bet. I love to write myself. I've got a few novels up there on Amazon, but I'll bet that some of these characters are drawn from people that you've known in the past.
Some of them are. It's kind of interesting. I had an interview on the first book because this whole I have a series from Sullivan's Secret pretty much because I wasn't able to put the characters away. It was like you get attached to them. You can't help yourself but not get attached to them. And basically that set off the rest of the books in the series. And some of the characters in the beginning are people that I met. Some just came off the top of my head and I made them up. But some people, some names and things do represent other people, but I'll keep that to myself.
Yeah. Oh, that's great. Oh, that's funny. And I'll bet some of your friends are out there going, "Oh my gosh, is that me?"
Well, you hear a lot of comments when they say not to, don't make a author angry because they'll kill you off in the next book. So.
Yeah, there you go. You got to be in good terms with your buddies who are novelists. That's for sure.
That's right. That's right.
Now, let's get into a little bit. I believe that there's a lot of people listening to our show tonight who are very interested in potentially publishing their own books. Maybe some of the stories that have happened to them over the years, or just the subject matter that they're interested in. Let's talk a little bit about how your routine would be as a writer and how you discipline yourself to actually create enough material to do a book. Maybe how you lay it out as well.
Sure. In the beginning, I didn't have a whole lot of structure. That took a little bit of time. I'm combination pantser, where I write by the seat of my pants. Things just come to me, and I'll just write. That's the creative side. There are other times when I will outline the story. I usually have to obviously have a beginning, a middle, and an end, to make sense of it. And I create my characters. I write them down, features of what I want them to be like, personalities to a degree. Sometimes I pull from people. And research is huge when it comes to writing. The psychic world, I did a lot of reading, a lot of different books that I read on that, the people that I thought were reliable sources, so to speak, and took on the understanding of what it was like to be psychic. And everybody has different types of abilities, so I kind of pulled together what was most fascinating to me and created Marie, so to speak. And researching ghost investigations and groups of that matter. There's always been groups on television that I used to watch without fail. I was, glued to the television watching a lot of those teams and investigative groups and understanding to a degree what it takes to do an investigation. But it wasn't until I actually got the chance to go on an investigation with a local paranormal group here in my area. An extreme eye-opener for me because you understand the great, great detail that goes into what they have to do to research their subject and the client that they're helping. They not only research, what is happening with the client, they research the area, maybe the home, if there's any history on it. And then when you get down to the investigating, you've got all the sources of, equipment that you have to do. And it just takes tons and tons of time. And I got the chance to really understand that and experience it. And then I was able to convey that into my story. You can write fiction, which is extremely fun and great, but you do have to have a level of truth behind it. When you're researching an area, a town, information on how things are done, you really want to be able to convey a good fact on that, because a lot of times you may have somebody that knows that subject matter extremely well, or even that town extremely well. And if your information is incorrect, end up losing that reader. You know, they're not going to consider you reliable or worthy enough to continue reading your books, and you don't want to lose